Hello, my name is Kate C. Wilde, and we're going to talk, this is part 3 of Is My Child or Adult on the Autism Spectrum Bored? Okay, I'm actually going to talk about a possible signal that your child or adult may be doing that could be an indicator that your child is actually bored. I bet you thought I wasn't going to say that, right? So, and it might not be what you really expect. Okay, so when our children who aren't normally in this particular mode go through a period of what I would call delightfully button pushing. All right, and this is my definition of what button pushing is. And if you want to go into more detail about that, there's a whole chapter of it in my book, Autistic Logistics, but be sure to get the 2nd edition of Autistic Logistics, the whole chapter on button pushing. But I think you'll know what this is if you don't already. And that is when my child does something, right, that they know I don't want them to do. And I might get a little hot under the collar, go a little crazy, have a big reaction to it, right? So let's say my child takes a glass of water and throws it on the floor. Right now, there are 2 ways that if I have a child on the spectrum, that they could do that, right? Because a lot of our children and adults on the spectrum love water. So if my child, right, or my adult takes a glass of water and they throw it on the floor, but as they throw it on their floor, their whole presence and attention is actually on looking at the water, putting their hands in the water, watching it drop, putting their feet, playing with it on the floor, and they're seeing, because water is really beautiful, they're seeing the beauty of it going backwards and forwards, okay? That's what I would, if their attention is on it, that's what I would call isming with water, stimming with water. And so that's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about when your child might take a glass of water and they throw it on the floor, but they're not putting their attention to the water on the floor. They're looking straight at you. Yes, you, mama or papa, or you, professional. Yeah, teacher. They're looking at you because they're doing this activity because they're interested in your reaction. Because usually, and to be honest with yourself here, right? Because we've all done it, all of us, right? You might go, no, I can't believe you're doing that. How many times do I have to tell you not to throw the water on the floor? And you get a little reactive, all right? And they might even smile or do it even more, right? Or maybe usually they pee in the toilet wonderfully and amazingly, but they start peeing on the floor and looking right at you. Or I've had some children or adults who do something in the other room. I'm not in there. And then they come and just say, I've made a big mess in the kitchen because they're not interested in making the mess. They're interested. They have to tell me because they want to see my reaction to it. All right. So if your child is more interested in your reaction than the activity they're doing, that's what I call a button push. Okay. So now the best antidote for a button push is to have no reaction to it. So let's say your child throws water on the floor and they're looking at you. You want to remain as calm as you possibly can. And inside you want to say to yourself, okay, the more I react to this, the more they're going to keep on doing it. So you want to like breathe and soften to yourself. And you can think, nothing bad's happening right now. No one's going to die. Everyone's going to be okay. It's the time to breathe out. Just take a breath. And if you were smiling, keep on smiling. If you had a neutral face, keep a neutral face on. If you're in the middle of asking them the question, carry on asking the question. You want to make it a non-event. Then, because they're seeking a reaction, a minute or 2 later, you want to give them that big reaction to something you want them to do. So let's say they come and they touch your hand gently you then want to give them what I would call a completely over the top, crazy reaction to that, because that's what they were looking for just a few minutes before, right? So we want to give them that reaction. Wow! Yeah, that is amazing. That's totally fantastic. That is stupendous. Woo! Right? We want to go nuts and celebrating, dancing, singing how amazing it is that they're touching our arm in a crazy way. I mean, a crazy way. And so that if they're looking for a reaction, they're more likely to do that than the throwing of the water that didn't give them a reaction. Okay. Now, but okay, so if you want to go, I talk about much more in depth in my book, Autistic Logistics, about button pushing. Okay. And this isn't just our beautiful children on the spectrum, it's also our typical neurotypical children. Pretty much everybody does it. Really. However, this could be a sign if your child is going through a period of button pushing. It could be a sign actually that they are bored, right? It could be a sign that you're not stimulating them enough. And this is very common actually in the autistic world, because sometimes maybe the therapy that's happening for them has, I would say, plateaued, and maybe you're or isn't really meeting them at an intellectual level, at their age level, with really interesting, meaty things for them to do and to think about. So you want to think whether your child is in school or whether you have a home-based program, which is I help parents who have home-based programs run their programs with great, wonderful, stimulating things for their children to do. So you really want to rethink that and maybe give them some more stimulation, more interesting activities. And actually my book, Autism Abracadabra, has loads of great activities. I know I keep mentioning my books, but they are pretty amazing for giving you really practical things that you can do for your child at home, right? So I really want everybody to at least know about them. But so if your child is, 10 or 11, read them something from the newspaper, right? Introduce them to science, introduce them to astronomy, to a foreign language, to something. If you think about, and this could be a sign, right? So as I said these things, you might say to yourself, oh, well, my child wouldn't be interested, or my child would never do that, or he wouldn't understand it. That could be a sign that you're not pushing the envelope a little. Because one thing that is really important is to know, if you don't already, which you may, right? Probably as you're here, which is to think that our children, their difficulty is not receiving information. It's being able to let us know in a way that we understand that they understand. So oftentimes, if you up the stimulation level, of the activities and intellectual content you're presenting to your child or adult, then that gives them something more to do. So you might find that the button pushing goes down as long as you stop reacting to the button pushing too. Okay, so hey, look, I hope that was really helpful. And if it was, please click the like button. And I'm going to be making as many of these videos as I can. So do subscribe to my channel. Do write a comment. Let me know what you think. And have the best time with your amazing, beautiful beings on the spectrum.